You talked about the CIC, so labeling him as one of the best politicians in South Africa. Why?
Malema, he's a man of the people. I think he understands poverty. I think he understands racism and being suppressed and having a very difficult life. I think he's one of the leaders who stayed true to serving the people. I think that is a very outstanding characteristic to have in a country where most leaders have abandoned that. I think he'll stand with his people to the bitter end. I also think he's an outstanding leader in the sense that he's driven a United Africa perspective.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's a mark of a man who is leading not only for today, but for tomorrow. And I think the significance of the EFF and Julius Malema will only be felt in generations to come.
Don't you think establishment of such areas like Orania perpetuates white supremacy and, of course, some sort of a federal state?
Yes, it does. And I think that's the view of the Cape Independence movement now, where they want to secede almost a whole province away from South Africa. I mean, interestingly, the very same province that colonialism entered through. But I think white supremacy is everywhere. I think it's in the boardrooms. I think it's in parliament. I think it's in the judiciary. It's in the newspapers that we consume. It's everywhere. I don't think it has to be locked up and isolated in an Orania. It is everywhere. It's in the choices that we are forced to make. I mean, the economy is primarily white. The land is white. And more importantly, perhaps, is the thinking in our society is still driven by white values and a white ideology. And that's once again where I celebrate the birth of an organization such as the EFF, which is challenging that. It's introducing beautiful ideologies of Fanon, of Sankara, of Steve Biko, so that we can start reimagining a new future, a future where white supremacy is, if not eradicated, pushed to the peripheries of the society in every aspect.
When did your interest in politics actually start? Was your family somewhat influential in your political consciousness growing up in a white family?
I was born into a very quite conservative Jewish family, actually. And I've been a rebel for as long as I can remember it. I can't remember a time I wasn't pro-Palestinian and also against what I saw. But I mean, the white system of indoctrination at school was very strong. I think when I became aware of the injustice was when a family friend, Dr. Edelstein, he was actually a doctor in Soweto, and he was one of the people who lost his life in the Soweto riots in 1976. So I was a very young child. I think I was 10 or 11. And I think that allowed me to understand a little bit more about the country outside of the white suburbs, to which was my world, to try and understand what was going on in the nation. And I think from that moment on, I never saw the world in the same way. But yeah, I haven't come from a family who supports my political views, and nor do I support their political ideology.
Yeah. So with that background, what was motivating you to go ahead, be a rebel, like you describe yourself? What was giving you the edge to, in fact, go out and advocate for those who are oppressed?
Oh, I think it just comes down to justice. I was an activist at Wits University. In fact, I met the wonderful advocate Dali Mpofu at that time. I was at university a long time ago, where there were still black structures and white structures. And we did a lot of protesting under the state of emergency, still apartheid, good old days. And I think I was motivated by individuals that I met, many of who are quite senior leaders now, but particularly by somebody like Advocate Mpofu, who even in those days, everyone loved him on university, from the cleaners, from the security people, from the students. He was a true activist and I think a wonderful role model. And actually, when he joined EFF from the ANC, because I'd also been an ANC member, I knew it was time for me to join the EFF, which I did in 2014. But I think to be inspired by people of that caliber, I think had a very significant impact on my life.
And we're grateful to have people like you who have got strong views in the discourse. And because we need thought leaders, we need people who are going to stand up. At least now you are a white person, but you are standing up for justice, not because you're white, you're privileged, and you let those who are less privileged fend for themselves. Now, you talked about joining the EFF. I understand that in 2014 you served in the EFF interim PCT structure in Gauteng, and you were subsequently elected as the first deputy secretary in Gauteng. Talk us through your role in the EFF and why did you decide to join the Red Beret?
Well, as I said, I think being motivated when I remember, I'll never forget the words of Darlene Pofo when he said, I didn't leave the ANC, it left me. And I had been a loyal member of the ANC until Marikana, and that shook me. I couldn't understand that a black government would do this. You expect nothing of white people killing and maiming black people, but when a black government does that, it's just, my love affair with the ANC ended. And to see somebody like Andile join the EFF, I knew that at last there was a party that I could join, that was an alternative to the ANC. And I did join, and I was very blessed to work with some of the senior leaders, including the CIC. It was an absolute privilege, actually. I met people the whole leadership was just brilliant. I mean, for people to say Julius Malema is not intelligent and educated, I found one of the most intelligent people I've met. Floyd, of course, he used to set us very hard exams, and mostly I failed. Actually, in terms of you have to be very versed in so many ideologies, from Marxism to Fanon. It was really a big ideological and intellectual lesson for me to be part of EFF. And I'm very grateful. Also, having worked with I was allocated Alex during the election. And
Alexandra,
yeah, it was just a wonderful experience. I have so much respect for ordinary fighters. Actually, I'm more so even than the leadership, the quality and dedication of EFF fighters I've never seen in any other organization. So I was very fortunate to be part of the 2014 election. And I had joined at a time when it was still early days in the EFF, and there was no formal structures. And I remember the CIC allocated people to be in an interim structure, of which I was part. And I remember his dedication to ensuring that there was an equal balance of males and females. And I always found that very admirable, because he stuck to that, not only in interim structures, but in the placing of people in the National Assembly, in allocating positions to people. He was very sincere in that.
And you talked about the CIC, his character, and also labeling him as one of the best politicians in South Africa. Why?
I think that he's a man of the people. I think he understands poverty. I think he understands racism and being suppressed and having a very difficult life. So I think he's one of the leaders who stayed true to serving the people. And I think that is a very outstanding characteristic to have in a country where most leaders have abandoned that. So I've spoken about how the ANC, the greatest act of social distancing in this country, was between the ANC and the electorate. They've abandoned their people. And I believe that Malema he'll stand with his people to the bitter end. I also think he's an outstanding leader in the sense that he's driven a United Africa perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a mark of a man who is leading not only for today, but for tomorrow. And I think the significance of the EFF and Julius Malema will only be felt in generations to come, because there's no bigger gift that you can give to an African child than a united Africa. And whilst I see some people are skeptical about the policy of the open borders policy of the EFF, I think it's one of the most progressive strategies that I've seen, and people in the diaspora, people on the continent appreciate that. The share of voice that EFF has internationally and on the continent is far greater than I think anyone realizes in South Africa. I think it's a mark of an organization that is going to be not only a force in South Africa, but internationally, and of course, most importantly, on the continent.
Yeah.
There you have it, guys. Julius Malema is usually full of these revolutionary speeches. Sometimes you wonder where he gets them from. But whatever the case is, we really hope that his wisdom transcends, and really contributes to the development of Africa and in helping solving Africa's really myriad of challenges. But what do you guys think about his speech? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please share and like and subscribe, because that's the way you support Kwazemi as a channel, an Afrocentric channel, where we try to understand deeper issues in African history and hopefully develop a collective intelligence on how we wish to build the Africa we want to see as people of Africa. See you in the next one.